new people. So nice to see old people. It's nice to see everybody. So who do you think is happy to see everybody? God. Right? God needs encouragement. God has been alone for a long time. So I'm new at this. This is my second time giving service, so bear with me.
Got it.
Thanks. Okay, so the title of the sermon is Do I Matter? Do I Matter? That doesn't mean me, that's like for every single one. Do I matter? Does anyone ever question if they matter?
Yes.
Does anyone not question if they matter? Why? Okay, good.
There you go.
All right. Okay, so do I matter? It's really important, right? So in the divine principle, there's one particular part that says, in Christology 2.1, it says, suppose there is a perfect machine whose every part is the only one of its kind in the world, and there is no way to either procure or to make a replacement for any of them. No matter how small or insignificant a single part may be, its value is then the same as the whole machine. Similarly, a fully mature person is unique in all the universe. No matter how insignificant he may seem, his value is equivalent to that of the entire cosmos. Has anyone ever felt like they are equivalent, their value is equivalent to the entire cosmos? No. That's a really tremendous claim to make, right? That one person has the value of the whole cosmos, right? That's what it says in the divine principle. Now, in the Bible there is a story about the lost sheep. Has anyone heard that story? Right? Does anyone know, does anyone tell that story?
You.
Okay, you can tell the story.
I might get it wrong, but yeah, it's about with Jesus, right?
Yes.
So Jesus is a shepherd. He has a flock of sheep.
You want to get it?
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Jesus was tending to a herd of sheep, a flock of sheep, and there was one lost one. Oh, there was one lost one. Hello. And he realizes this, and he leaves all of his other sheep and goes to search for that one sheep. So I think what I got from that story was that he was willing to sacrifice everything just for that one individual person, just for that one sheep.
You did a great job. Right. So in the Bible, we actually have some sort of some reference to this concept, right, of one person having the value of everything, right? Now, that value is unique, right? Nobody can replace you. Right? There's no other you, just only one, right? So that means, it also means that, for example, here we go. Like, does anyone, sorry, I ask a lot of questions. I like the Socratic method. Okay, does anyone know what Reverend Moon teaches about heaven? Like, what is the concept of heaven from the point of view of Reverend Moon? I mean, that's very, there's a
Living for the sake of others.
living for the sake of others. Or how do we get to heaven? Like, where is heaven? Is God in heaven?
Family is the key to heaven.
Is the key to heaven. Okay, there's many things about heaven, but there's one particular thing that Reverend Moon says about heaven. It says that basically heaven doesn't exist until everybody is in heaven. Right? So as long as there's somebody who isn't in heaven, you can't really have heaven. Right? Now, what do Christians teach about heaven? What is kind of the Christian belief? I mean, I don't mean to. I don't want to be rough on Christians, but Christians actually have really good hearts, right? But the idea, there's this very interesting idea in Christianity, right? Which is,
It's only for the saved.
Yes.
right.
What she said.
So basically, you have to believe in Jesus, right? And if
Or you'll be cast down.
yeah, you can go to hell.
You
So
go to heaven when you die.
you go to heaven when you die. But what about when the resurrection happens? When the resurrection happens, if you're a Christian, you get what? The second coming happens, you get saved, right? Even the dead, right, come out of the earth and go to heaven, right? And the people who don't believe in Jesus they're cast into hell, right? So that's the belief, there are many different factions of Christianity, but that's kind of a typical fundamental ecumenical belief in what heaven is. The second coming is going to come. If you believe in Jesus, you get to go to heaven. So Christians have been very avidly and interested in trying to get people to do what? To believe in Jesus, right? That's the fundamental thing. If you believe in Jesus, that is salvation, right? That is the essence of salvation. If you don't believe in Jesus, you are going to be cast into eternal damnation. So that's a pretty serious thing, right? But that affects, right, how they behave, because Christians, especially ecumenical Christians, don't like to get involved in social issues. They don't like to get involved in, they are like focused on one thing, and that is, we want to get you to say, I believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Because that is the most important thing, right? Once, they don't want you to get left out. That's, it's nice of them to feel that way. But at the same time, it's a very different concept to think that God will never rest until everyone is fulfilled their purpose, is in the realm of God's existence. Now that's also a very comforting thought, right? No matter how far away you go, no matter how many terrible things you've done, God will still search for you. God will still look for you till the end of time, right? And we believe that life is eternal. Okay, next. Okay. So, what about truth? Does truth matter? Does it matter what we believe? Naomi, what do you think? Does it matter what you think? Does it matter what you believe? To you?
I guess if the ending's the same, then
So if the ending is, so in other words, if God, so long, no matter how far you go, God's going to fight. So it doesn't matter what you think, eventually you're going to be saved.
well, I don't know. It's
That's
not
a,
better
I mean,
than
that's
that.
pretty, that's like the lazy man's route. Like,
Yeah.
all right, great.
Okay, well, maybe not then.
No, it's okay. I'm not trying to dish you. I mean, it is a way. It is. You can. It's like a pretty. It's not. It's kind of smart, right? If you're really lazy, you're like, okay, well, I'll be the last one.
I guess kind of something that Father talked about in the book a long time ago, like kind of what she's going along with is all rivers point to the same ocean,
Right.
everything goes towards the same, all directions point towards the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
And there's a lot of different truths to every single perspective. Everyone has different truths that they follow. But I think the most important thing is that love is kind of what matters the most. And so what she was saying, it's we all have our own different truths and we all have our own different principles.
So in other words, what you're saying is it doesn't matter that much what
It doesn't
we
really
believe.
matter that much. It matters what we practice, and what matters. If we practice love,
What we practice, right?
then that is what's.
We can get really complicated here.
Yes.
I mean, we can get into various nuances, right? Right.
Yeah.
I
I got you.
Okay.
I'd like to say something about the definition of pure love as I see it.
Well, I want to stick to one thing because we can really go off on tangents here. So the question is, does truth matter to you? Truth. We're talking about truth, okay?
Yes.
Okay. Eric says yes.
Also, you asked,
does truth matter is a different question from does what you believe matter? It's not the same. Like, I
Okay, does
believe-
truth matter to you?
Truth matters to me, absolutely,
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay, so let's see what it says in the divine principle, right? It says, in the Third World War, 441, page 376, it says, it is inevitable that the Third World War take place. However, there are two possible ways it may be fought. One way is through armed conflict. The other way is wholly internal ideological conflict. There must first arise a new expression of truth. When the new truth secures a victorious foundation in the democratic world and then conquers communist ideology, and I put there, this is not in there, but it says dialectical materialism, which is what communism is based on, the unification of the world will be achieved based on one truth. Okay, so based on that part of the divine principle, does truth matter?
Yes.
The truth matters a lot, right? It's very serious, right? Okay, so human beings are pretty interesting creatures. We kind of seem to not fall into lock and step with the rest of the created world, right? We can create, like, for example, there's a theory called the theory of evolution. Has everyone heard about the theory of evolution?
Yes.
Right. Does anyone know what the basic fundamental ideas of the theory of, what is based on? What is the theory of evolution based on?
All life originated from one point, and we humans evolved from that life, which was eventually apes, and we evolved from apes.
So how did it happen? How did it happen to happen?
Random chance. Natural selection.
Natural selection, right? Natural selection, and there's another key word in that is called the survival of the fittest. Have you heard of that? Right? So evolution believes in, like, you want to procreate, right, and you want to survive, right? That's what the basis of the theory of evolution is. Like, I want to live, I want to live, right? And, like, natural selection, that means, like, the woman's like, are you good enough to have, for you to be the daddy of my baby daddy? Right? That's what it is, right? That's the natural, but human beings, right? Human beings, somehow, that's not good enough for us, right? We don't fall into that theory of evolution. We're like, how do we know that we don't fall into that? Can you give me an example of something that we see today that happens to people that kind of counteracts that basic idea that we want to live? Suicide. People commit suicide. They don't want to live. Okay, how about another one, like the theory of procreation, right? Everybody wants to procreate. What happened? Do we see anything in society today that counteracts that?
Right.
Abortion.
Yep, we've got gay people, right? They don't really care that much about procreation. They're willing to have a partner which they cannot procreate with. So basically, human beings don't fit in that realm of, they don't fit into evolution. They don't fit into the fundamental teaching of evolution, which is that everyone wants to just survive.
Well, bad ideas die out, so that humans are free to choose whatever you want, but the reality is the stupid people die. Bad ideas die out, it's part of natural selection. So the humans that decide to follow bad ideas, that's fine, but they just die out.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is the fundamental teaching, the fundamental idea, right? Because the fundamental idea of evolution, right, is that everyone wants to survive, okay? That we want to live, that's the most fundamental desire. But human beings transcend that. Human beings are not satisfied with just survival. Okay, you put a little fish in a bowl, right? And it's like, I mean, you put a human being in a bowl, that's like a psycho killer, right? Human beings are dissatisfied, if you just give humans food, water, and shelter, right? Which you think, animals need food, water, and shelter, a little bit of love, you know, throw them a bone every once in a while. Is that enough?
No.
Okay, who in society actually struggles most with suicide? What part of society? Youth? Rich people,
The
poor
richest.
people?
The richest.
The richest
Elderly
people
women.
in the poorest countries?
The richest country.
The richest countries, the richest people have the highest suicide rate. So that completely contradicts, right, this fundamental idea that we just want to live. So what else do what do people need? They need purpose, right? Human beings are the one thing in all of creation that is dissatisfied, that is always dissatisfied until they find a purpose for themselves, until they understand purpose. So purpose, truth, is actually important. It's important for me, it's important for the world, right? According to this. Right? Okay, in the divine principle it says that human beings are the embodiment of truth. What?
So,
Just a little teeny. This is-
Oh, I'm too loud?
No, there's no feedback or something.
Okay, so, am I too close?
You're totally fine, sorry.
Okay, so human beings, all right, human beings, the divine principle, this is like a shameless prop because I am a fan of the divine principle. The divine principle has the most amazing little details of, nuance about truth that I find really interesting. Okay, so here it says that human beings are the embodiment of truth. And scripture, as in like what you read in a book, right? Truth is the expression of truth. So how is that important? Does that matter? Are those like little differences in concept of truth, is that important in any way?
Yes.
Okay, why do you think it's important? Who would like to answer that?
Embodiment is practice and expression is a theory. Embodiment, Jesus walked on the earth to show God working. True Father walked on the earth to show God working. We have a physical body, so embodiment is about the physical body. That's why it's very important.
Anyone else want to say something?
I have experience. I joined in Berkeley Church in 1969, and one of our members there, a very good friend of mine named Terry McGuire, he stayed with the church for a couple of years, and then he left. He went out on mission, and he met a sister, a church sister, and then he left the church. I found him 30 years later, and I was at his house talking to him, and he said, it was a remarkable discussion. He said to me, he said, the 2 best years of his life was when he lived in the church center. But then he said, my wife is in a mental institution, one of my kids is in jail, and I've got this problem, and he says, if I would have just stayed there and married whoever Reverend Moon did, my life would have been different.
Okay, thank you. So, for example, when people hold up the Bible, right, there are Christians who say the Bible is what? The truth, right? Is the truth, the word, right? Is the truth itself, right? Here it says, the divine principle says that scripture, right, is an expression of truth, right? Do you see how that's important? All right, it says they are not the truth itself, but textbooks teaching the truth, okay? Right? It's an idea. It's an idea. So if you had a person here, and if you had the truth written down on a piece of paper, and you were like, all right, which one should we burn, right? which one would be okay to burn? Like, which one would be less should we burn the piece of paper or should we burn the person? The paper, right? So human beings, right, are the truth. We are like the embodiment of the truth. We are the existence of truth. So truth exists. It isn't just a teaching, right? Teachings are our way of trying to understand what is true, but we are the embodiments of the truth, right? That's a really big difference, right? It's a very slight change of words, right? Do you think about it? Oh, the embodiment of truth, the expression of truth. They're actually very, very nuanced differences, but they're very important differences, right? Very important to know that a teaching is an expression of the truth. We may understand it differently, we may have different opinions about it, we may have different beliefs, but it's still an expression of truth. And the person itself, we ourselves are the embodiment of the truth, or we should fulfill the embodiment of truth. So we, in a sense, our human self, humanity, is more important than just an idea, right? But ideas are also important, right? So it's like a relationship, right? So the divine principle is a very interesting document that is able to basically take very conflicting ideas and call them both true, right? Okay, so I'm the embodiment of truth, right? So I am the truth, I'm cool, I'm the best, you know? But then there's also like the expression of truth, which is, teachings. So some people are like, the Bible is the truth, Bible thumpers, you guys suck if you don't believe this, right? But actually, we actually need both. And I find the divine principle a very interesting document that basically tries to that actually is able to bring very different and conflicting things and basically say they are both true. And they both basically exist in a relationship. If you read the whole divine principle from beginning to end, it's about relationships. Subject and object, the relationship to God and humans, the relationship between humans and the relationship, blah, 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 blah. It's subject and object, masculine and feminine. It's basically like a circular thing. I remember I met Reverend Moon when I was 21 years old. And I don't know, that was like the time when he continuously talked about vertical and horizontal. This is my first experience meeting Reverend Moon. So he was always making these like lines, vertical and horizontal. And he was always talking in Korean, so you couldn't understand most of what he was saying. Like, you just like, whoa, I wonder what he's saying. But at that time, he would continuously draw these circles. Like, if you ever look at, he's like drawing circles and circles, and the parallel, the vertical and the horizontal, and the color and the circles and circles and circles. And if we look at the universe, is the universe a straight line? No. Is the universe flat?
No.
No. The universe is three-dimensional, right? The universe is three-dimensional, and it exists in relationships, right? You take out the sun, what's going to happen to the earth? Go flying off, right? So nothing really exists independently. Everything exists within relationship. So often when we think of truth, we think of something that is linear, right? We think of something that is set. We think of something that doesn't change. And therefore we're like, oh, that's, so lame, right? But actually truth, well, some people, right, like Western ideals, logic, blah, 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 you can sort of look down on them. Some people look down on a very strict understanding of truth because then you become like, inflexible, right? That's it's a typical viewpoint that's put on Christians. They're very inflexible people, they have beliefs, standards, and they can't do anything. But the principle is able to sort of bring everything into relationships. And I find that like a phenomenal ability, because if you try to do it without knowing the divine principle, and I did, you have a hard time. You have a hard time trying to figure things out, trying to understand aspects of the Bible. Okay, a person encapsulates all elements of the spirit world, while his flesh encapsulates all elements of the physical world. A person who has completed the purpose of creation thus encapsulates all the essence of everything in the cosmos. This is why human beings are called the microcosm of the universe. For these reasons, a human being has the value of the entire cosmos. That's really, I guess you don't really have to say anything, right? That says a lot right there. So, if my original value is equal, my original value, right? So human beings, we still haven't really fulfilled our original value, right? So the question is, how do I fulfill my original value, right? I need to seek my original value. Because my value, whether I know it or not, is equal to the entire cosmos. That's like, it's a lot of value, right? That means if I don't fulfill my value, that's also like, well, you haven't fulfilled the value of the cosmos. So, as an individual, right, regardless of what we do, regardless of how important we are, regardless of whether I have influenced anyone in my life, or whether I'm, the governor or whatever, right, you still have the value inherently of the entire universe, the entire cosmos. That's a lot. So, regardless of whether we are important or not in society, we are important from the point of view of our original value. So even if you don't want to be an important person in society, it's still important for us to seek, to try to understand what our purpose is, who we are. And that's why we try to understand truth, because it helps us understand our purpose. It doesn't fulfill our purpose, just knowing the truth. It helps us understand our purpose. Okay? Now, if a new expression of truth, so this is the divine principle, says the new expression of truth is essential for world peace. Should I seek to the new expression of truth? So that's important, right? Do we want to see war? Do we want to see things fall apart? No. Okay, so as an individual, it's important to understand the truth, and for the sake of the world, we need to try to seek for the truth. The end.